What's going on, guys? I'm Jonth, and today I'm going to show you how I produced Badness by me and VinDon. So the first thing that I actually did was to start writing, and I always start writing in my head before I put anything down in my DAW at all. So the first thing that I had in my mind was these two notes, the dun dun, and I wanted to base my whole track around these two notes, but the first thing that I actually started designing was this main bass here, this sound. And it's actually not as like intricate as it might sound. It's actually a lot more simpler than that. The first thing that you probably notice here is that it's just two sawtooths, right? With some unison, a little bit of detune. Oscillator B seems to be turned off, but it's actually being controlled by LFO2. And a little bit of FM synthesis, which is being controlled by LFO3. The second thing you may notice is that oscillator A is 2 octaves down and oscillator B is 1 octave up with an addition of 7 semitones up. So that's what's kind of creating this fifth harmony kind of vibe. And then, of course, there's a filter, low pass and high pass, and a white noise. And then this all feeds into the effects chain. One more thing that I want to show you before we take a look at the effects is that here in the global preferences or whatever, I have turned down the width of both oscillators completely, all the way down. So I need to reintroduce this stereo somehow. So I used a hyper dimension, or I didn't use the hyper part of it. I only used the dimension expander part of it. And then I used a Combs filter, which also kind of creates a little bit of stereo. And of course a chorus and ping pong slap delay. After I did all that, I started modulating a bunch of things here. So you can see the Combs filter is being modulated. Put some distortion on there, because whenever you distort something that has unison, it just turns it super crispy, and I love that kind of vibe. So next thing on the chain is a phaser, and this is actually turned off until one certain point in the track, and it's kind of a fill part, kind of not. But I'll show you what the phaser is for. It's actually in combination with this delay modulation that I have here, and they're all controlled by these macros. So macro 2 and macro 3 is controlling the frequency and the mix. Macro 2 is literally just to turn on the phaser for this fill, and macro 3 is to control the frequency. It kind of shapes it. But what shapes it mainly is this macro 1. As you can see, it is linked to all the knobs that you can possibly link it to in the delay. So what this kind of creates is a tonal kind of effect. If you listen to this, sounds really annoying, especially if I leave it here and just let it go. You get this really sharp, really high tail, if you will. So what I did to counter that was I added mutes on here. And what it sounds like when all of this is being automated at once, let me just mute everything else so you can hear what's going on. I think there's a macro 4 here as well. Yeah, there we go. So what that sounds like this without anything else backing it up. It's just this. Sorry about the lag. It's a really heavy project. We can play that again. The next thing on the chain is this macro 4, and what it does is literally just throwing the oscillator B up 1 octave. So once all the hi-hats and a little bit of percussions and all these details come in, it throws it up an octave and makes it a little bit brighter and more exciting for the next part of the drop. And then we got a bunch of all these little details and this guitar piece here. I have some effects on this chain as well, but it's nothing really that interesting. It's just some serum effects. Let's have a look at the processing for this bass. I have the same processing at the end of the chain because I bust all of my basses to one main bass bus. And what that looks like is this. First of all, we got the distortion, the decapitator. Then we have some saturation, multiband saturation. I pretty much always do this. So we got the warm tape to kind of create like a white noisy kind of feel at the top of the spectrum. And it makes it way easier to control it if it's just white noise. And you get rid of a lot of these peaks, I feel. And then same thing here, but I've cut down a little bit on band 3 because I felt like those frequencies were a little bit harsh. And then there's a clean tape here, which I pulled down the mix on as well, because I don't want it to be completely distorted. I just want to have that, like, I don't know, feel to it, I guess. And then next up, OTT. This is a serious amount of OTT, like a lot more than I would usually do. And then next up, we got an EQ. And this is something that I always do as well. As you can see in the sides, I rolled off a lot of these like mids because they tend to create a lot of mud, at least the way I sound design. I don't know about you, but they're usually pretty muddy. So I just rolled that off a little bit. And yeah, then just got rid of some annoying frequencies. And next up, we got this reverb here. And this is just your normal FL reverb too. This wet is being controlled by this automation clip here. So as you can see, it kind of washes it out at certain points. It kind of sucks it into the next part at other points as well. So yeah, that's the bass processing. So without the main pattern here, it just sounds like this. These are all the details and all the supporting elements in the track. Usually, this section here that I got here, this one section, that's usually something that I put at the beginning of the second drop, but I felt like it would be better just in this specific record to put it in the next part of the drop to create some more excitement. I think it's time for us to take a look at the break. And like I said before, I wanted this dun dun little 2-note melody to be part of the whole track in some way. So I was scrolling through Splice and I was looking for a sample and I found this. And if you listen closely, you might be able to hear without all these supporting elements, but this is what it sounded like before I added anything to it. So you can almost hear it, but it wasn't quite there yet, so I added these little supporting layers of orchestral sounds to make it stand out a little bit more. So then it sounded like this. The next thing I did was I moved into this trap drop because I really felt like I wanted to get like a rapper or something like that. So that's why I felt like VinDon was perfect for this track. If we just have a listen to this break and we have a listen to the drop, you'll be able to hear the similarities between them. And then we're moving into the build-up. And in the build-up, this orchestral part, this layer here, is then being supported by these this main bass that I showed you earlier, and it is slowly transforming into that sound. So once it drops, it just sounds huge. Yeah, this is what that sounds like. So then once it drops, you get this. But yeah, if there's something that you feel like I glossed over or something else that you want me to explain to you that I missed or just flat out skipped in this walkthrough of badness, just let me know in the comments and I'll have a look at it and see if I can respond to my best ability. And yeah, this has been Jonth, and thank you for watching. Have a good one.